Pickman's Model by H.P. Lovecraft. Adapted for your ears by Kelly Combrink.
Thurber! Glad you could make it. Come in.
Thanks. Good to see you, Elliot.
And you as well, old boy, though I must admit you're not looking too terribly robust, are you? Bit pale.
Yes, well.
Nothing a good nip of brandy won't banish, though, eh? Sit down, I'll grab the decanter and some glasses.
Again, I'm obliged to you. That sounds like heaven.
Not at all. There we are. Not to keep picking at you, but you really do look as though you've seen a ghost. Is everything straight?
Ghosts. No, I know I'm more nervous than I was when you saw me last year, but you don't need to hold a clinic over it.
Not so much a clinic as just perhaps curiosity. You were positively sporting when we were in Greece, ruddy almost, and now, well, wan is something of an understatement. I'm just wondering what you've been up to have changed you so much in so short a time. Why, it looks like you've lost a third of yourself.
You didn't used to be so inquisitive, Elliot. But if you must hear it, I don't know why you shouldn't. Maybe you ought to know anyhow. All those letters you wrote after you'd heard I'd been cutting the art club were like something a grieved parent might send. Especially after I told you I'd been keeping away from Pickman.
Poor chap still missing, isn't he? Queer sort of fellow. You two were close for a bit, though. Any idea of where he might have spirited himself off to?
Queer doesn't even come close to accurately describing Pickman. Now that he's disappeared, I feel all right dropping by at the club again, every once in a while. But my nerves aren't what they were. No, Elliot. I don't know what happened to Pickman, and to be honest, I wouldn't like to guess.
I just thought you'd have the inside scoop, as they say. You dropped him right before he vanished into the night.
Well, you're not exactly wrong, and that's why I don't want to think of where he's gone. Let the police find what they can. It won't be much. They still don't know about the North End place. He'd hired it under the name Peters.
I didn't know he kept another place. Were you over there?
Yes, though I'm not sure I could find it again. Not that I'd ever try. Not even in broad daylight.
Mr. Elliot, sorry to interrupt.
Not at all, Miriam.
Will you be needing anything else this evening?
No, I believe I'm set for the night, thank you.
Then I believe I'll be heading out.
Very good. Have a safe walk home.
Yes, sir. Good night. And to you, sir.
Good night, madam.
Good night. So, now, this is starting to sound a bit serious. Do you know why the old Pickman kept this other house?
Oh, yes, I know. Or I'm afraid I know why he maintained it, but I'm coming to that. I think you'll understand before I'm through why I don't tell the police. They'd want me to guide them there, and as I've said, I wouldn't go back there, even if I did know the way.
Dear God, man, what happened there?
There was something there.
Something?
Yes. There was something in that house. Now I can't use the subway or go down into cellars anymore.
Thurber, what on earth are you talking about? I don't mean to snicker, but you sound a bit like Miriam after she's read one of those cheap thrill books. I do not expect this from you.
It's fine. You have your laugh. You're right, the old me was a stouter chap. And you ought to know that I didn't drop Pickman for the same reason as fussy old whiners like Mrs. Minot or Dr. Reed or Rosworth did. Morbid art doesn't shock me, and when a man has the genius that Pickman had, I feel it an honor to know him, no matter what direction his work takes. Boston never had a greater painter than Richard Upton Pickman. I said it at first, and I say it still.
And now, we move on to Mr. Pickman's submission for the evening, a piece entitled Ghoul Feeding.
Here now, this is perfectly indecent. What is the meaning of showing this kind of grisly tripe? I don't have the words.
Meaning? There isn't any meaning behind what you see before you. The painting is called Ghoul Feeding, and it is a portrait of said ghoul performing said feeding. Though your reaction is certainly amusing enough to give it meaning.
It's horrid.
If you say so, madam. I don't pretend to critique my own work.
Mr. Pickman, I must agree with Mrs. Minot. This painting is not fit for exhibition in this club.
It's abomination. Look at the pleasure that creature takes in dismembering its prey. It's ghastly.
All right now, before we cover it up as should be done, let's at least try to give it an academic once-over.
Pray, tell us, Dr. Reed, what sort of academic criteria you would like to apply to my work.
Well, as you all know, I've just finished several courses on comparative pathology. If you don't mind, Richard, I'd like to ruminate on what this painting and your other little oddities say about their creator.
I love nothing better than to hear this. Go right ahead.
Let me start with a closer examination of the painting. Yes, that makes sense.
How could you stand to get so close to that cursed canvas, Doctor? I could scarcely stand to be in the same room with it.
Indeed. Be careful now, or you may find yourself falling right in.
You know, I don't think that it's all that bad. In fact...
Not that bad! Oh!
Now, Thurber, I still have the floor. You'll have your chance in a moment. Mr. Pickman, as I stand here and look from your canvas to yourself, I notice a marked similarity between your features and the features of your ravening ghoul. Almost as if your sympathy were with the gibbering horror, than with its hapless victim.
Sorry to correct you, but the ghoul's prey is not a victim. A dead body cannot be a victim because it is no longer an animate object without thought or feeling.
You mean that poor wretch being eaten is...
Yes, it's a corpse. I thought that was obvious by the lividity of the flesh. I suppose I should have used more powder blue around the eyes and extremities.
I can't hear any more of this outrage without... I feel becoming physically sick. I'm going to the drawing room to try to calm my nerves.
Good evening, Mrs. Minot. Always a pleasure.
Excitable woman.
I can't say as I disagree with her.
Now that it's just us, gentlemen, allow me to continue. As I was saying, you've painted your subject to resemble yourself, Pickman. That exhibits something of a nihilistic trait nestled within you. There are several current theories about the possibility of evolutionary regression and the connection between that and a person's personal hygiene, specifically their diet. Tell me, Richard, what in God's name are you eating?
Oh, this and that.
Well, gastronomically speaking, you must be abnormal and eccentric to the last degree. As far as this painting goes, whatever your strange psychological traits or eating habits, I must, in the final analysis, agree with poor Mrs. Minot. While your technique is above reproach, your subject matter is morally bankrupt and does not enlighten or lift the viewer's soul. It is worth little, save for shock value, and in my opinion, that renders it the worst kind of hackneyed non-art.
Harsh words, old boy. Harsh words for certain. How about you, Rosworth? You feel the same?
I cannot even give it enough scrutiny to make any sort of educated comment. It's abhorrent.
And you, Thurber? You started to give your own opinion a moment ago.
Well, gentlemen, I must respectably disagree with your assessments of Mr. Pickman's work. I believe it takes profound art and profound insight into nature to turn out stuff like this. Any magazine cover hack can splash paint around wildly and call it a nightmare or a witch's Sabbath or a portrait of the devil. But only a great painter can make such a thing really scare or ring true. That's because only a real artist knows the actual anatomy of terror or the physiognomy of fear.
Thank you, Thurber. Your words more than make up for our colleagues' lack of vision.
Indeed, I don't have to tell you why a Fuseli brings a shiver while a cheap ghost story frontispiece merely makes us laugh. There's something these fellows catch beyond life that they're able to make us catch for a second. Dore had it. Sime has it. Angarola of Chicago has it, and our Mr. Pickman has it as no man ever had it. Yes, the painting is grotesque in the extreme, but it is that characteristic itself that makes us gasp and gag, that makes it not only art but high art.
You put me in grand company, Thurber. I don't know